Hi there, Cat King.
Well, hello there, Ms. Anna Luther.
It's great to be with you today. I am super excited that we are getting to record a podcast. It's actually a dream come true of mine.
Yes, Anna, if you don't know, is somewhat a podcast nerd. And so being able to actually create our own podcast is a mini dream. We may quit our kit jobs and just become podcast hosts. I'm sure there's a lot of money in that.
Oh yeah, so much.
Yeah. Let's go on the road with our inclusion podcast.
That's right. They would come flocking to it. Live shows are a big deal. Some podcasts do live shows. We could do it, Kat.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to do inclusion anyway.
No, my real dream is to do a true crime podcast. That's the rabbit hole I tend to go down very often, but we won't be doing that today. I promise. We're not going to take you down the true crime rabbit hole. We're going to stick to inclusion.
Yes, although if inclusion is not done well, it could be considered a true crime.
It is a crime when inclusion isn't done well.
Yes. Yeah. So, boy, we are living in really wonky times. The world's turned topsy-turvy. And when we first started talking about this podcast, we thought it would be just more general best practices, experiences that we as KIT staff have had over the years, little nuggets of information that could be helpful. And this one may be a little dated over time because we definitely want to look at it through the lens of what things may be the new normal as programs open back up, kids and staff come back with some additional needs in terms of trauma or just realigning to expectations. And so we're definitely going to look through the lens of re-entry after this time of quarantine. So in 6 months, we may need to re-record it and approach this topic differently.
Yeah, I think this is a topic, what we're going to talk about today, that is universal to whatever time we're living in. But like Kat said, I think it's especially going to be important as we're looking at re-entry. Some programs that are open for essential families of essential personnel right now may find this useful as you reopen more fully. And just as we're thinking about hopefully one day when things kind of go back to what we've been used to, that may take a while, but I think this is going to be really important because we just don't know what children and youth have been experiencing when they've been at home and how it's going to change their perspective, how it's going to change their experience when they come back to the program, as well as the staff. Any of you who have been home for a while, come back, it's going to be a different experience because of sort of being isolated a little bit with a lot less people than coming back and being in a program all of the time. So let's talk about, this is one of our favorite little tips that we learned quite a while ago, actually. So just to let you know, Kat and I have been working together for a long time. We've worked at 3 organizations together, all in the realm of helping children and youth be included in their community program, whether it was an after-school program, a childcare program, an aquatics program, a dance class, a Girl Scouts, a Boy Scouts, whatever it may have been. We've worked together for a long time in that field, and this is one of the tips that we learned along the way. So Kat, do you want to tell us about this?
Yes, so we definitely want to give a shout out to Karen Darby and the folks with the North Carolina, what was our position? We were school age specialists with the North Carolina
School Age Project.
Yeah, so Anna and I each had 4 different counties in North Carolina and helped school age programs be better prepared to serve all youth. And with our background with inclusion, we definitely focused heavily on that. But there was this great sort of approach to looking at supporting the diverse needs that youth may have when they come into a program. And an example that I like to use is, imagine that you've had a hard day at work and you come home. What do you like to do? And it can be very different depending on the day, but you may have sort of a general routine where what you like to do is take off your shoes, flop on the couch, and just watch the news and eat chips. Or you may say, my routine is I grab my dog and I go for a 2-mile run. I've got to expend that energy, and that helps me get into a positive headspace for the rest of the evening. Or it could be you go home, you hang out with your kids, you hear about their day, and you have this social connection. But that isn't just for adults. Kids want certain things as well. So when kids come to your after school program, they have a way that they want to kick off their day. And the same could happen with full day summer programs. So this is sort of big buckets of ways to start off the day that we call the secret sauce. If you're intentional about offering this variety of options when kids start their day, you can set them up in this positive headspace to then be engaged and successful in this experience. So do you want to, I feel like I should do a drum roll. Do you want to share what those are?
Yeah, so we call them snacks, laps, wraps, and naps. So those are those 4 main buckets that Kat mentioned, and you can probably guess what they might mean based on the example that she gave about coming home from work. So snacks, of course, is that you've got some kids who have their full day of school, or even if again, talking about summer camp, coming in the morning, they might be really, really hungry. I know this is true for my daughter. When I pick her up, she's only 4, but when I pick her up from childcare, back in the day, she would immediately say, as soon as we walked out the door, "Do you have a snack in the car for me?" She is the child who, first thing in the morning, whenever I pick her up, she's got to have something to eat. So she is a snack kid. She's got to have that snack. Otherwise, she turns hangry. And trust me, nobody wants to have any part of that. So that's snacks. So then we've got laps. So that might be the person who needs to go for a run. So if any of you know our KIT trainer and inclusion specialist, Laura Jenks, you know that she is a runner. She is a marathoner. And so she, after a day of a site visit for working for KIT, she has to go out for a run. So you might have some kids who are like that too, who've got to just get out that energy with some kind of active activity before they're going to be able to really maybe engage in the regular part of the program. So do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, and just to add on to what you're saying, kids have been sitting in desks all day, especially as they get older. So then to immediately think that they can jump into sitting and doing homework without that physical release is fighting a losing battle. And that's not true for everyone. So the naps one works really well for those kids that are actually the opposite end of the spectrum, where they're worn out. They are just physically exhausted. And if you immediately required them to go into the gym and start playing basketball, they may have a meltdown because they just need to flop somewhere. So for naps, can they have space to stretch out, whether it's to read a book or just to close their eyes for a little bit, especially the little ones, the kindergartners. That's a very long full day. Where they could still be engaged in a low energy activity. It may be solitary, where they could disconnect from others and have a chance to do something low energy, quiet, where they can comfortably stretch out their bodies. And then what do we have? Raps.
Raps left, yeah.
Yes, so raps is not WRAPS, but RAPS. And with raps, that's social time, especially in this time of kids having a lot of stress, anxiety, uncertainty. It's going to be even more important than ever that the first thing that kids can do when they come into a program is connect with an adult that cares about them. It may look a little different. You may need to do a little chicken wing instead of a hug or a high five, but hearing their name, someone saying, "How was your day?" And then also having that chance to reconnect with a peer. Is it allowed for them to just sit and chat? Maybe it's over snack, or it could be that there's start out with a little bit of free time, as opposed to immediately everyone sit down, it's silent snack, no one can talk, or everyone's rushing in and they're just a number and staff aren't connecting with them as individuals.
I had a great example of this in a program that I supported back when we were school age specialists. And I want to make sure everybody hears this properly, the little name of this activity that the teacher or the group leader called this. She had a Chit-Chat Session when everybody would come in for the day. This was a really small program, so she had an opportunity to connect with this small group of children that were there. But basically, if they wanted, each youth had the opportunity to talk about something that had happened during their day, and they would celebrate it too. So I remember one of the days that I was there observing, there was a young lady who had worked really, really hard on this test. The group leader had helped her study for it, and it was a subject that she had been struggling with. And so they had their little chit-chat time at the start of the program day, and she talked about how she did on this test, and the whole group celebrated it with her. So it was a really nice way to have that wrap time where they got to talk. As Kat mentioned, right now, this is going to probably be especially important when people are just feeling really out of sorts. Moods can be up and down at all times. Youth may be confused about, what they should be doing in a day, how to stay safe, how for their parents and family members to stay safe. So they really might need that time to be acknowledged and validated with that wrap session.
Mm-hmm. And this is somewhat simplified, but that wraps option needs some intentionality around it, because that could just as easily turn into a toxic time where kids are bullied, or they're looking around for someone to talk with and there isn't anyone, and youth ends up feeling more isolated and lonely because there's the opportunity to talk but no one's there. So being very intentional with the staff about creating this culture of positive interaction. It may need to have some adult facilitation like that chit-chat time, at least at the beginning.
Right, so maybe a topic of the day or something like that, where you can have some structure around it without it going off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
So Kat, I know that there is a fifth one that I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but I've heard the stories, and I've heard that it has been very popular.
Are we going to go there? I wasn't sure we were going to go there.
I think we should go there because, it's a need. It's a potential need. So I think that we should go there.
Okay. All right. So the fifth and unsanctioned one, but I do think has a lot of relevance, and it also rhymes with all the others, is craps. And this again takes intentionality and thought and empathy. And that's that many times kids have been holding going poop all day, And when they come to the program, they are rushed through this group care line where everyone has 2 minutes to go use the bathroom before they move on to the next activity. And for some kids, they're physically uncomfortable by that point. So recognizing that there are some kids that need longer to sit on the pot, and how can that be done without attention being drawn to them or being embarrassed? You also have girls that are old enough in your programs that they may have their monthly cycles, and they need a way to be able to bring their feminine hygiene products into the bathroom without everyone knowing their business and what's going on, and a way for them to dispose of products in a way that's not embarrassing. So, there may be girls that need to ask for products from staff because they don't have enough, or they forgot them. Do the girls know how to do that? How to ask for hygiene products? So I know that word craps is crass, and I apologize. There's not a rhyming word, but talking with staff, talking with kids, thinking through to have that need met, because there's nothing worse than really having to use the bathroom all day and not having a way to do that. You're going to set up that kid to not have a comfortable program time. So snacks, wraps, laps, wraps, craps,
laps, wraps, naps, craps.
Yeah. So those are our tips for having some secret sauce to start your program off on the right foot. Anything you want to add, Anna, before we wrap up?
I think one thing is just always remembering getting to know the children and youth that you're serving, because then you'll have a good idea about what those needs are, and you'll be able to be intentional about how you set up that transition time into the program. So knowing what those needs are and making those choices available and making that part of your routine, and the children will know what to expect, and hopefully that also makes for an easier transition into the program when youth know that there's going to be something available. I'm going to have a choice that's going to help me meet my needs. And in the long run, hopefully that what that does is create this sense of safety, emotional safety for children and youth. It gives staff the opportunity to even use some of their strengths and highlight their strengths in implementing some of those programs, and hopefully just makes for a much more peaceful time in the program.
All right. Thank you, Anna Luther.
Thank you, Kat King. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.